very thick and very fast. We're going to get to them in a second. We're speaking to Amollo Otiende, Senior Council Member of Parliament for Rarieda. Yes, he was very involved in the last petition. Now that NASA's not in this one, he is missing in action in the Supreme Court, and he says he doesn't miss it one bit. Keep tweeting at Amollo, at Koinange Jeff, hashtag JK Live. So I asked you a question before the break. CIS Senator James Orengo had said that former Prime Minister Raila Odinga will be sworn in as president in the next couple of weeks. Your thoughts?
I am sure soon you will invite Senator Orengo.
Yes.
And I'm sure he'll expound on it much better. But you asked two questions. That's the first and then the second. What the CIS Senator says is that if they swear in Uhuru Kenyatta, we will swear in Raila Odinga.
As what?
Obviously as president. And the question there is to mark those words, if they swear in Uhuru Kenyatta. As you know, there are all those who believe in Jubilee that even all these processes are a waste of time. They should go ahead and swear in the president. If they swear in the president, James Orengo says, we will swear in Raila Amollo Odinga. Now, you need to understand the context of that. Now, let me explain secondly, therefore, the question of the People's Assembly. I've had all sorts of indications and all sorts of arguments about the People's Assembly. It is important to understand that everything we are doing now is within the Constitution. We have not and we do not intend to go outside the Constitution. Fortunately, our Constitution is a progressive Constitution. It's a transformative Constitution. Indeed, some say it's a revolutionary Constitution. And we will use all its revolutionary elements until we get proper electoral justice. The People's Assembly is well founded in the Constitution in at least 3 distinct sections. Article 1 of the Constitution, Article 1, Sub-Article 2. Article 1, Sub-Article 1 says, all sovereign power belongs to the people. Article 2, Article 1, Sub-Article 2 says, the people may, and the word is may, the people may exercise that power directly or through their elected representatives. The people reserve the right to choose at any time whether to exercise the power directly or through their elected members. Sub-Article 3 says that power is then delegated. That is when they choose to exercise it through the elected members, delegated to Parliament, to the executive, to the judiciary and all. So 2 elements there. One, because it's delegated power, it can be recalled anytime. And there are no conditions for recall. Secondly, because it's an option, when those who are elected are representing the people well, then the people will say, let them go on. But when they are not, then the people reserve the right to recall that power and say, no, we will exercise it directly. So, in forming the People's Assembly, the people are choosing to exercise that power directly. Article 10 requires public participation in everything that is done. And therefore, as a value, as a Kenyan value in the Constitution, when we say we will have a People's Assembly, which will incorporate not just those who are elected, but it will incorporate different segments, that is an aspect of people's participation. Article 38 then caps it all. It gives you the power to assemble freely. And that assemble is what's called an assembly. So what is this assembly? The contemplation here is to have the assembly from the county level. As we speak, at least 10 counties, assemblies, have passed that motion. They have adopted, a motion of saying, in their view, there was no election on 26th of October. Which is why, for us, we are not waiting with bated breath what happens in the Supreme Court, because we do not recognize it. That is why we are not appearing there. They have adopted a motion that legitimizes establishing the People's Assembly at the county level. It will then comprise the elected MCAs, the elected members of Parliament and senators, the governors, the women reps. It will then also comprise civil society representatives that operate in that county. It will include religious leaders that are there. It will include professional associations. In other words, It will include all those others whose voice may not be heard within the formal assembly.
So you, as Member of Parliament for Rarieda, will
Yes.
you be part of the People's Assembly?
I will be part of the People's Assembly in Siaya. And then, after those deliberations, and the deliberations will include a raft of things, including, is it the view of that assembly that we should reconsider Kenya as one country? Okay? And then there will be a national coming together now of the various assemblies, when all those from all those counties then now come together in Nairobi for a grand congregation.
Okay, what if the counties only number, you said 10 so far, right?
Yes.
What if they're less than half of the counties in the nation?
That is not a problem, because first of all, at this stage, for what they are doing, they do not need to be a majority. As it is, it's only been less than 1 week, 10 have adopted it. At least we have indication that at least 22 assemblies are going to adopt it. But that is not the point. The point is, the issues that will now be dealt with at the national congregation will be very weighty issues where the people will be dealing with them directly. Now, you must note that even in counties where the county assemblies are not willing to adopt it, it is still open to the citizens. And indeed, many citizens are already arranging those citizens' assemblies, even in those counties. Its existence does not depend on adoption by the county assembly. It adds impotence, but it does not depend on it.
But the counties will be paying for these People's Assembly, let's say the meetings or the venues and stuff like that.
It is open for the counties to pay. It is open for individuals like the elected members like me to donate. It is open to civil society and religious organizations to pay, because it's a People's Assembly and there's no obligation on any one person to do it. It helps if the county government takes charge in terms of arranging it. But whether they do or not, this is a People's Assembly.
Okay, so I guess you've answered Alan Wakesa's question, and I'll ask it anyway. And a lot of people have asked the same question. If the Supreme Court clears Uhuru Kenyatta as president and he is inaugurated, will NASA accept?
Of course not. And I think that is obvious. Our position was, and has always been, that there is no way Raila Amollo Odinga was going to participate in a sham elections unless the playing field was leveled. The IEBC, with much encouragement from Jubilee, decided not to do that. And therefore, Raila elected to pull out. Once Raila pulled out, our position is we do not recognize what happened on 26th as an election. That is why we have not bothered to challenge it. What the Supreme Court is doing, it's examining that very thing which we do not recognize. And therefore, the outcome is neither here nor there for us. For us, what is important is that we will use the alternative constitutional means to ensure we come to that time when we will have fair, credible elections.
And when you choose to boycott companies like Safaricom and Brookside and Bidco and maybe even a few others, does that help in any way? Isn't that retrogressive?
Well, I think, Jeff, it always depends on where you stand. I am sure that if you asked the Egyptians at the time the Israelites were trying to move away, it would have been difficult to find a single Egyptian who would have agreed that the Israelites had a cause. Okay? If you asked the white Americans at the time of the Montgomery bus boycott whether it was right for a black woman to refuse to stand for a white man, I guess 99% would have said, of course not, he should have stood up. So it's always a difficult question because it depends on the prism from which you look at it. If you are looking at it from the prism of a lot of people who believe that they have suffered injustice and they've tried everything in the book, including judicial means, including discussions, and it does not work, then you would understand when they say that all those who are supporting that system then must be boycotted. And therefore, it is of course legitimate, and it is legitimate and it can be explained, for example, that what Safaricom did was to sabotage the Constitution was to sabotage the will of the people. You cannot be a public listed company that is contracted to assist in credible elections, then you do things and withhold information from the public when you know that that information would have helped show that was illegitimate. But
those are allegations, yes?
No, they're not allegations. It was demonstrated, and I can explain to you.
Wait, so if there are NASA followers or NRM followers who work for Safaricom and are very senior, or Brookside for that matter, or Bidco, should they quit?
The boycott was on the product. We have not called on those working for them to quit. If they choose to quit, that's an individual decision. But the boycott is on the product. But I think what you're really asking is not whether they should quit. What you're really asking is what the other people have been saying, that because NASA have called for a boycott of this product, sack all those who are sympathetic to them.
Not at all. I'm just saying.
No, not you. That is what some other people have been saying. Victimize them. Victimization is something that happens all the time anyway, with or without boycott, you see. But that's not what we are calling for. We have called for a boycott of those products because they did something wrong. So it is possible. Yeah. It is possible that if an entity came up and owned up and said, the truth is, this is what we did and it was wrong, we apologize. It is quite possible that that boycott and all would be reconsidered. But if they don't, then it must continue.
But that's almost like economic bullying or sabotage, if you will. I mean, you're holding these companies ransom.
Jeff, it is constitutional, it is legal, it is allowable. There's nothing wrong with economic bullying. It happens all the time. In apartheid South Africa, the whole world exercised economic bullying, including this country. You remember when some of the prominent politicians in this country were discovered to be trading in South Africa? It became a big issue. Yeah. Even we in Kenya and any country, Syria now and most of others, the whole world exercises economic bullying as a way of righting things that are wrong. What is wrong with us exercising it in this country? Absolutely nothing.
Bottom line, if Baba comes back on Friday and he over the weekend, he goes into some kind of talks or discussion with the president, you think all this grandstanding will stop? If they chat, they sit down in a room and talk.
I think you should understand, and most people should understand, that what we are talking now about now is not making peace between Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and Raila Amollo Odinga. We are talking not personal differences. I actually suspect that the two gentlemen don't have personal differences. But I think we are talking differences in terms of principle. Our principled difference is that you cannot spring from an illegitimate platform and end up on a legitimate seat. The illegitimacy is the whole charade of a flawed election.
But
the springboard,
yes,
the springboard of the Jubilee team is that Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta should talk. And I know he's not said it, but a lot of his people are saying it. But they are saying it, talk about everything, provided it's not about your seat. Now, you see, that's the problem. Because that seat is the issue in contention. How to get to that seat legitimately, so that if you get there legitimately, there should be no issue of talk. But if you do not get their legitimacy, then the talk must be about the legitimacy of the seat. Now, that's why the two are not likely to talk soon, because their premises are different. I agree, and I'm one of those who encourage that there should be talk. I have always said this. I said this as early as February this year. I said it in June before the elections. I said it, and I've always said it. But these talks cannot be about how they agree, because that is our problem. You remember, in 2007, we were in that issue. Then we said, let them talk. So the issue was buried. They talked. And there's the so-called Nusumkati government. It was a temporary palliative. In 2013, there was that problem. In 2017, there's this problem. How can we keep burying it? In 2022, what will happen? And in 2027, we must get the proper solution. So talk is good, but not talk for the sake of burying issues. It is talk for the sake of confronting issues.
Bottom line, as a former ombudsman, as a senior counsel, for this country to move forward from this, what do we do?
I think what we do, and we have kept saying it, and we could have done it much easier, Now doing it will be that much more difficult. What we must do is accept that we have a government that lacks legitimacy. Okay? Whether on whichever side you are, you must accept that. And if you want to know that, you just look at the treatment of our government and our country by the international community. If you accept that there is no legitimacy, you will accept that what the court is dealing with is merely legality. Legality will not, it can settle legal questions, but not the legitimacy question. You must therefore have a situation of talking in terms of we need to move to the point when we do two things. One, have free, fair, and credible elections.
Again.
When do we do it? And before we get there, two, how do we constitute government in an interim manner that will have legitimacy? And then thirdly, how do we revisit that little bit thing in the Constitution that appears to disenfranchise a significant portion of the populace every 5 years? Those are the three things we need to do in that order.
Barring which?
Barring which, we are on uncharted territory. Raila Amollo Odinga will arrive in this country on Friday. There will be a grand reception, which is lawful, which is constitutional, and the police cannot bar anybody from accessing the airport. I saw the
IG said you cannot.
The IG say that the airport is a restricted area. What is restricted is the inside part. Up to where the passengers are, I mean, where the people are received, it's not restricted.
The arrivals.
The arrivals is not restricted. It has never been. It has never been when Matiba was coming back. It was never restricted when Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta was coming back from The Hague. Why is it suddenly restricted? We cannot have the IG create his own laws and implement them. We will insist on the hard-won gains in the Constitution. We will go to the airport to receive Raila Amollo Odinga. We will come with him. We will have a rally. Now, back to what I was saying. Once he comes, and then we will have a rally, the boycott is on, the People's Assembly are on, the discussions in terms of the possibility of a referendum is on. Beyond that, it is unclear what will happen. And anything can happen.
And if the Supreme Court upholds the election results and the president is sworn in?
As I've told you, that is a question of legality, which is not recognized by us because there's a more fundamental question of legitimacy. The Supreme Court will not solve that question.
Amollo Otiende, my goodness, I could talk about this all night long. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So you're going back to Rarieda?
Yes, no, not for now. After, we'll be going back after we have.
And when you're in the National Assembly, will you be part of the committees, or you, the opposition, will they assign appointments to committees?
In the fullness of time,
yes.
If it is accepted that we now can engage, then we will be.
Okay.
Yes, but that is not the case for now.
Secession?
Secession is out there. It's a matter of discussion. And obviously, if all fails, it is always an option.
Wow, let's hope all does not fail and sanity prevails.
Yes, indeed.
Amollo Otiende, Senior Council, Member of Parliament for Rarieda. Thanks so much for being a part of the show.
You're welcome.
You know, if it's Wednesday, it's all about JKL. But tomorrow morning on Hot 96 with Jeff and Jalas, our guest tomorrow telling us his story. Because as you know, every Thursday we have a guest telling us their story. Tomorrow is Israeli former diplomat turned musician, the Israeli Kenyan, that's right, Gilad Milo, who just won 2 incredible awards at the Afrima Awards in Nigeria. He's going to come tell us not only about the winning, but also his story. Tune in, 96 FM, tomorrow morning between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. In the meantime, keep tweeting at Amollo, at Koinanga Jeff, at Citizen TV Kenya. The hashtag is JK Live. Thanks so much for being a part of the show. Good night. Good luck. God bless. God bless Kenya.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
Well done, brother.